Okay, thank you, Professor Meissner. We would like to know your opinion. Now, in the context of the recent international recession, the relative good performance of the world trade is, in your opinion, a consequence of the persistence of the China demand expansion, or do you think there are other explanatory variables or other questions that we should mention?
This is an interesting question. Trade had a big collapse in 2008, the likes of which the global economy has not seen. But it made a comeback. And I looked at the recent data from the IMF, and while trade is growing more slowly in the last 2 or 3 years, so is world GDP. And depending on how you look at it, we may be back to where we were. That the trade to GDP ratio is growing about how it was before the trade collapse. In the last year or two, though, there's a troubling trend. Trade has grown much more slowly relative to world output. And there you have to say what's driving that. And the forces would be capital market disintegration in the Eurozone due to the ongoing Euro crisis, slowing demand in China, and smaller rise in the outsourcing and vertical specialization that we've seen, problems in Japan. So it's a volatile period and hard to understand on the basis of the 3 or 4 years since the trade collapse. But it looks like once the world gets over its financial crisis and the recession, that it's not just China, the US, Europe, and Japan matter a lot, and we'll be back on trend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I would like to talk also about what do you think on the long-term primary commodity price growth, if that may favor the people welfare improvements in the developing countries in this moment, and what about the most poor countries, not only the developing countries? What about Africa in this context of?
Well, it's true that certain countries have benefited from recent commodity price growth. Australia for one, Brazil another, and even countries in Africa have benefited, right? But we shouldn't get carried away, because if we look back in the past, we see problems with commodity price booms. We see the resource curse, that when resource abundance rises or prices go up, nations grow more slowly. And to understand that, most people nowadays are thinking about the political response to the resources. And it doesn't look good, especially in the poorest regions, such as Africa. You see when the stakes are higher, people fight for those to control the resources. And you see a rise in civil strife, a collapse of democracy. We've seen problems in Sudan, Senegal, to name a few, not to mention ongoing problems obviously in Zimbabwe, but that might be a little bit less related. So resource booms without strong institutions and good policies in place prior to them, in the long run, may be a very dangerous thing, and it would be good to think about diversifying the economy. So I'm not that optimistic on that one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.